2021 meeting of the City of Kalamazoo Planning Commission. Welcome everybody and good evening. Glad we're all inside and warm tonight. Can we have a roll call, please?
Chambers?
Present in Kalamazoo, Michigan.
Phipps?
Present in Kalamazoo, Michigan.
Greenman Wright? Running a little late. Milliken?
Present in Kalamazoo, Michigan.
Patelko?
Present in Kalamazoo, Michigan.
Pitts? Vyas?
Present in Kalamazoo, Michigan.
And Wisner.
Present in Kalamazoo, Michigan.
Thank you. We received an agenda for tonight's meeting. Are there any changes to the agenda?
There are none this evening.
All right. Can I have a motion then to accept the agenda?
I move to accept the agenda as presented.
Support.
Motion by Vyas, support by Wisner. All in favor of the motion, raise your hand or say aye. Aye. Any opposed? All right. Great, thank you. Also in our packet, we received 2 sets of minutes. We'll start with the first. We had the January 7th, 2021 regular meeting minutes. Were there any comments or questions or changes to be made to those minutes? Seeing none, can I get a motion to approve the January 7th, 2021 regular meeting minutes?
So moved.
Motion
Support.
by Patelko, support by Chambers. All in favor of the motion, raise your hand or say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Okay, excellent. Then we also had the special meeting on January 11th, 2021, the minutes of that meeting. Were there any questions, comments, changes to those minutes? Seeing none, can I get a motion to approve the January 11th, 2021 special meeting minutes?
So moved.
Motion by Wisner,
Or
Go ahead.
support by Vyas. All in favor of the motion, raise your hand or say aye. Any opposed? Excellent. Thank you, everybody. Any communication or announcements?
Not at this time.
Any new business?
Not at this time.
And there's no public hearing, but I will take advantage of the opportunity to remind everybody that this is a public meeting and there will be opportunity for citizen comments. Neither the items on the agenda will have a citizen comment opportunity, but there will be at the end of the meeting. And if you'd like to leave a comment, you may call in at the number on the screen, and that number again is 269-226-6573. Just leave a message there, and we will play it later on in the agenda under citizen comments. So that will be your opportunity again, 269-226-6573. So with that, we'll go into other business, and the first item is the neighborhood planner report.
Yes, so this report is going to come to you tonight by our neighborhood activator, Katie Riley. And so I'll let Katie go ahead and share her screen and give you an update on neighborhood planning.
All right, can everyone see my screen? Okay, cool. All right, hi everyone, I am Katie Riley. I'm the neighborhood activator for the city of Kalamazoo. And I'm here today to give you an update on neighborhood planning, how the process is going, and then also a little bit about how plans are used after they're approved. So, oh my gosh, technical difficulty. All right. So first, there have been 7 plans completed so far. You've got North Side, East Side, Vine, Edison, Oakwood, Parkview Hills, and Oakland Winchell neighborhoods all have completed and approved plans. There are 5 neighborhoods actively working on neighborhood planning, whether that is creating a neighborhood association so they can do a plan or they're in the planning process. Those are Westwood, Douglas, Stewart, West Main Hill, and Westnedge Hill. And I also wanted to use this as an opportunity to kind of talk about how a resident could create a neighborhood. There is a process for creating a neighborhood if you choose, if you would like to do that. The first step is, of course, to contact the planning department. And when contacting the planning department, you're gonna need to know the boundaries of the new neighborhood you want to create and also why you are wanting to create that new neighborhood. And planning staff will be able to help you identify any existing organizations or associations that would be impacted by the proposal that you're making. And also help you get the public participation plan and help you understand if your proposed neighborhood would be eligible to create a neighborhood plan that can become a sub-area plan of the master plan. It might be that you're identifying a really small area or trying to create an incomplete neighborhood. And it would be difficult then to create a sub-area plan to the master plan. The second step, you would need to engage the residents and the organizations that are impacted by the change you're proposing. To do this, you would use the public participation plan, which is available on imaginekalamazoo.com, to come up with your strategy, and then planning staff can help you implement that strategy. And if you are impacting a neighborhood association, you will need to engage that board in order to come up with an agreement for the proposed boundary changes. And once you have completed that effort and you have come to an agreement with any impacted organizations, we can work on changing the neighborhood map. The other thing to consider is we do have a whole slew of sub-area groups in a lot of neighborhoods, whether those are block clubs, condo associations, or we have quite a few associations around specific features, for example, the Woods Lake Association. And those can still be an active group and definitely active in a larger neighborhood planning effort, but you don't necessarily need to change the map in order to have that official group. So there's a few things to consider about that. So once a plan is done, how do we use them and what does that look like? So I can confirm we definitely use neighborhood plans after they're amended or approved. And so here are a few examples. If you are in the Vine neighborhood a few years ago, you may have seen some new bike racks pop up in some parks. That was from neighborhood planning. New sidewalks, whether it's repair, replace, or a new build, those areas are selected based on neighborhood plans and the areas prioritized by residents. Another good example is if you've been on Oakland Drive or Parkview Avenue recently, you may have seen the Oakwood Neighborhood Center wayfinding signs. That was huge for the neighborhood association because Oakwood Neighborhood Center is tucked away in the neighborhood. So that was an easy, quick win for their neighborhood plan. But also on top of the city using neighborhood plans, neighborhoods have done a really excellent job of using their neighborhood plans as well. So you have Kena used their neighborhood plan to partner with the KVCC Culinary School, and they created recipe cards that were provided with food bank pickups. That was a really well-received and ongoing partnership. In Vine and in the Edison neighborhood, you may have seen a bunch of the new public art. Both of those neighborhoods have leveraged some grant opportunities from the city to get larger grants to support those public art efforts. And of course, NACD has worked really hard on creating some really great workforce programs, including the CNA training program. Again, using their neighborhood plan to find partners and achieve that neighborhood vision. Some other big things that have happened recently. Again, if you drive on Oakland Drive, you may have seen the new pedestrian island that is from neighborhood plan feedback and Safe Routes to School planning. Recently, there was an educational effort from Public Services to place those drain stamps for drains that go into the river. They used neighborhood plans that identified this education as a goal to reach out to neighborhoods to find partners and also look at some potential locations for new markers. And with this past summer, we did an activation of the Brownfield site 501 North Westnedge. And we use the neighborhood plan in a few ways here. The biggest thing is that the RFP incorporates neighborhood plan goals into how whatever the chosen applicant is, they're needing to align with neighborhood plan goals very specifically in this plan. But we also had a resident committee involved throughout this whole process, and they'll be also reviewing the proposals and helping to make sure that we're sticking to neighborhood goals as well. And some other projects that I don't have pictures for, but are also ongoing and lean heavily on neighborhood plans. There's a facade project going on East Main with 4 businesses. Public Services used neighborhood plan feedback to support a federal grant that is totaling $629,900 to make some safety improvements across the city. NFP Phase 2 map used neighborhood plans to identify certain areas that residents wanted to be evaluated, to be included. Zoning updates rely heavily on neighborhood plans. Recent examples are the East Main rezoning, and before that, the North Side rezoning work used the neighborhood plans. The sustainability strategy will rely a bit on neighborhood plan goals and actions to help shape especially the resident aspects of what that looks like. We pursue Safe Routes to School grants to help support neighborhood plan goals. We have some big pilot projects happening this year. Examples of that are pilot bike infrastructure on Westnedge and Park, projecting sign project, and composting that happened last year in the Vine neighborhood, a pilot project. Another project in Oakwood, we worked with the local architect association to do a charrette for the Memorial Beach design project in Oakwood. It's a site that, it's a great asset for the neighborhood, but isn't utilized as much as the neighborhood would like to see. And another one is when the Historic Preservation District did workshops on making repairs to your historic home. They created some scholarships for residents from neighborhoods with plans that identified historic home maintenance as one of the goals. So there's a bunch of different ways that we use neighborhood plans. These are just a few, and I went through it quickly, but that's what I've got for you tonight. If you've got any questions, and I will.
Thank you for the presentation. That was great. Do any commissioners have any questions or comments at this time? I want to thank you for the presentation. It's helpful for us to know what we see these plans and we see the work that everybody in the city staff, yourself, put into it, but also the neighborhood put into these plans. But then we don't always see necessarily what comes of that. So it's really great to see this report and see, what has followed after these plans have been approved. So thank you for this information and this feedback. It's also helpful as we see subsequent plans come to us for approval. Now, maybe we get a better eye of, okay, this is how it's going to be used. So as we're reviewing those documents or looking at them, we can kind of look at it through a more refined lens as to how that document may be used going forward. So it's really helpful information. So thank you. Great presentation. Anything else? All right.
Greg said everything that I would say. So really, we appreciate your work, Katie, and take it really seriously as we're making decisions. So your work does not go unnoticed. Thank you.
All right, thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
All right, thank you.
With that, then we'll move to the next item, which is a discussion of the Planning Commission interviews that were held last week. Christina or Pete, did you want to give any introduction, or you want me to just sort of roll right into it?
I was going to let you roll right into it.
Okay. Well, if you'll indulge me, I will take a couple of minutes here because it's dawned on me that I've done this probably 7 or 8 times, and I may only have one more left in my term. And the next time this happens, there's going to be some new faces sitting around the interview table. And so I think it's good to sort of give a little explanation of what this is about and how these choices are made. But as a little bit of explanation for those who may not be as aware, Emily and Derek and I are very well aware, but others may not be as aware. We had 4 vacancies to fill, which is almost half the Planning Commission. And so to take a step back, this goes back to Alfonso's seat, and then spoiler alert for those who aren't aware, Corrine will be leaving the Planning Commission due to relocating from the community. So we thank both Alfonso and Corrine for their time on the commission. Their insights and contributions have been fresh perspectives on our deliberations. You'll both be missed. And certainly, Corrine, we wish you the best of luck in your new endeavors. And then Emily and Derek are leaving due to term limits expiring. And so as our longest serving members on the commission, they take with them a lot of experience and knowledge, and their willingness to share that experience, speak up when needed, to share perhaps differing opinions, to ask challenging questions, to speak up for neighbors or business owners. It's been critical to our function, and their absence will create a void that'll be tough to fill. So we thank you for your service, and we hope that you will continue to find other ways to serve the community. So for the rest of us, as you can see, we got our hands full here. And we went into those interviews with a great need and with high expectations. Fortunately, we were not disappointed. So I want to thank everyone who applied. That's not an easy thing to do. To make that kind of commitment to serve is necessary in today's society. So for those who were not selected, I hope you will not lose that commitment. And I encourage you to find other avenues to serve. I also want to thank the city staff, in particular, Pete and Christina. and as well as any others who contributed to the quality of applicants who were in this pool. As I said, I've done this a number of times, and this was by far the deepest and most qualified pool of applicants. The breadth of experience and knowledge and engagement amongst all the applicants was inspiring, and it made our job really challenging. Even with 4 vacancies to fill, it was tough. So thank you for making it hard. And finally, I want to thank Emily and Derek for helping out. It was very challenging, and as outgoing members, you did not have to participate, and you certainly did not have to give a full effort, but you did, and I'm grateful for your contribution. So thank you. So how do we make a decision? Well, we probably each have our own criteria and decision-making process, but generally it falls into a few different categories. And if you'll indulge me, I explained this for some of the newer people on the commission, but also, the folks who may be wondering how we get on the commission. One is, for lack of a better term, demographic. We work hard to make sure that the commission represents the general makeup of the community. This includes race, gender, age, neighborhood, employment, the whole gamut. I think over my term on the commission, we've done a really good job of capturing this. And in our new commission, we'll continue that trend. Experience. As you know, being a commissioner is not easy, and planning and zoning is not intuitive. And so having some background or knowledge of what's being discussed is helpful, especially considering the fact that nearly half of us will be new. So all of the applicants had some level of experience, either planning education, planning work, they'd worked on planning projects, they'd served on a planning commission before. So we're thrilled to have that level of experience joining our group. Bias. As a commissioner, our decisions must be guided by the standards of the ordinance, and we're limited by that framework. There really isn't room for a commissioner to use this platform to forward any specific interest or derive a specific bias. So we use the interview process to try and determine as best we can if the applicant will have a bias or if they will be able to guide their decision-making based on those standards of the ordinance. And then finally, we want to find out if this will be an engaged member, if they'll be someone who's going to come prepared, they'll ask questions, if they'll be okay with disagreements, with challenging decisions. That's one of the more difficult elements to ascertain, to be frank, but it's also one of the most important. So we take that seriously. So with that, Emily and Derek's going to give you a quick introduction to the 4 recommended members. You received their resumes and application materials in your packet or in the supplemental materials. With us losing so much experience and welcoming 4 new members, we're going to have 7 of 9 members with 1 year or less experience on the board next year. So we'll be doing a lot more training once they get started, and we'll be training the group as a whole. So for those of you that are here, if there are specific topics or issues or questions that you think would be helpful and that you'd like to have addressed, let staff know, let myself know, and we'll make sure that's incorporated into that process, which may include conversations at the end of the meeting, it may include a special meeting, or it may include work that we can do on our own in this virtual environment. So with that, Emily, would you introduce a couple of our new members?
Sure thing. Like Greg said, I just really want to reiterate, this is one of the best rounds of interviews that I've participated in, but it was really difficult to narrow the candidates down. I really wish there was a spot for every applicant that we had. Not that I'm wanting you guys to go away, but that we could have brought on 2 or 3 more. They were really high quality and I think representative of the city. One applicant that really stood out was, and I'm so sorry, I don't have my files open. David Burgess, excuse me. He currently lives in the Hillcrest neighborhood, which is Winchell, Oakland Drive, according to the city. He has a lot of experience coming from the township of Kalamazoo, and actually has served as a planning commissioner as well as a township trustee. He's an employee at Bronson. So even though he's lived outside of the city, has been involved and worked in the city for the majority of his career. We found that he was really spot on, with a lot of really great knowledge. And we all thought that he would be a really great addition. Was I going to talk about Jennifer? I'm so sorry. Yeah. Okay. So then the other candidate, I'm really sorry, guys, was Jennifer, who has a really strong technical background and is a project manager at Tower Pinkster. And we really felt that she would lend a lot of technical and critical expertise, something that we're really lacking on our commission. She's relatively new to the area, but lives in the Millwood neighborhood, and really looks at things from a different perspective. And I think could lend a lot of clarity and I think critical insight in the cases that we're discussing. So she also was an easy choice for us. Are there any questions? I'm wondering if you guys had a chance to look at resumes or if you have any general questions.
Well, how about, sure. How about Derek, you want to introduce the last two and then we'll.
Sure. Like Commissioner Milliken and Commissioner Green and Wright both stated, there really wasn't a single applicant that was not qualified. So it made the job very challenging. Any one of them would have been greeted with open arms in any other circumstance, other than the fact that we just didn't have enough spots. So I guess it's a good problem, but it was a challenge nonetheless. The other two applicants that we're recommending to the board are Michael Harrison and Mariah Phelps. Michael Harrison is relatively newer to Kalamazoo. I think he moved to Kalamazoo in 11, maybe. It was a handful of years ago. So he's not born and bred like Greenman Wright or anything, but he comes with quite a bit of experience with regards to public administration, working a lot on community gentrification projects. He has a consulting business in which he works with the schools. I actually know him a little bit from my children's elementary school, Parkwood Upjohn. He organizes some events through the school there. We all felt that he'd be a strong and engaged commissioner. He didn't strike us as one that would kind of sit on the sidelines. He would be pretty engaged and really roll up his sleeves and hit the ground running. Mariah has a long resume. A lot of her background is in, well, she's got an MA in public relations, international relations, excuse me. She most recently was a campaign manager for State Representative Rogers and State Representative Jim Hadsma. She's done a lot of work with political parties, economic development, you name it. She's done it with regards to community service. She's been very involved and she's very eager to continue her involvement with the city and giving back. So, amongst a list of qualified applicants, these were the ones that we selected. but honestly, any of those standbys could have been selected as well. So it was a good pool. And we
Thank
did
you.
also
So
try
what
to,
will,
I think Greg mentioned, or somebody mentioned, we did also try to think about the demographics of the neighborhoods and whatnot as well, and trying to space them out. Michael Harrison, I believe, was in my neighborhood, Weston Chill neighborhood, and I'm not remembering where Mariah was from. But we did try to make sure that all neighborhoods, or as many neighborhoods as we could, were represented.
Mariah's Central Business District.
Okay, downtown, yep.
good, thank you, guys. So those are the 4 that we are recommending. And staff can correct me if I'm wrong. You can ask questions, but just to wrap this up, we will be looking for a motion to approve our recommendation, and then that gets forwarded on to the mayor, who ultimately appoints these, and he takes these to the city commission for a ratification vote of that appointment. So that's the process as it goes forward from here. So I don't know that any of these members would be at the March meeting, or if they'll start in April, what the process is there. I guess it all depends on the appointments and everything, but
It would be staff's goal to have them on this board in April, assuming that their
April.
review is done. And that way there is no gap. Those members who are leaving us will leave at the end of next month. And so the goal is not to have a gap. We've been down a bit with Alfonso having left, but 1 is kind of doable, 4 not so much. I do have a question, a procedural question for City Attorney Robinson. Do these need to be taken individually as recommendations forward, or could they do a motion that moves all of them forward at once?
Well, you could do them all at once. Given, I think, the work that's been done, I don't think there's any question that there's going to be any dispute. But the problem with doing everything at once, if there was somebody who might have some objection to, then you really can't kind of consider that individual on their own. They kind of get lumped in together. But in this case, I don't see a problem given the glowing recommendation that you can consider them all at once. On the other hand, if there are other people who are considered, and I'm given to understand that there were, and there's a desire to advocate for one of those individuals in place of the recommendation, then you really can't. It's kind of hard to do if you consider them all at once.
So Chair, we'll leave it up to your discretion if you want to take them all at once or individually, since both are satisfactory options.
I guess I'll ask first if there's any clarifying questions, and then seeing none, I'll have confidence that we can get a motion to recommend for the 4 proposed applicants for the Planning Commission to the mayor for approval. Can we get that motion, please?
I move we recommend all 4 applicants to the mayor for approval.
Or
Motion by Patelko, support by Vyas. Is there any discussion on the motion?
Do I have to lead it off, I suppose?
You can say no.
Oh, no, actually, I did want to say, I do know one of the applicants, Mariah Phelps, I know to be a dedicated and professional from working with her on the Representative Rogers campaign. So I was happy to see her name on the list. And regarding the other 3, their resumes look very strong, and I think they'll make welcome members of the planning commission.
Thank you.
I just want to say thanks to the committee that did all the interviewing. I know I served on that committee once, and I do know that it can be time consuming. So thank you for all the work that the three of you and city staff put into making sure this board stays full.
All right. Well, with that, can we just do we need roll call, or can we just voice vote this?
I think you can do it either way.
All right. All in favor of the motion, say aye or raise your hand.
Aye.
Any opposed? Nay. All right. Well, thank you all. Thanks again, everyone who participated in this, for your efforts. And thank you for your support of the recommendation. And I'm sure we'll have an update next month on where that stands, and then we'll look forward to these new members in April. All right. Are there any citizen comments?
No citizen comments at this time.
Okay. Mr. Urban, welcome. Do you have anything for us?
No, I don't. I'm just glad to see you guys were able to come to some recommendations to fill those vacancies. That was definitely needed, and I'm glad you did it. And I'm looking forward to the mayor approving those appointments.
Great. Thank you. City planner report.
Hi, thank you. So I have the first of more lengthy city planner report to talk about some of the upcoming work that is going to be happening. So let me, if you give me a second, I will share my screen, and I promise I won't make it too lengthy. Oh, wait, hold on. Let's see. Can everybody see the slides? Great. So over the next few months, I'm looking from now till summer, we have a variety of projects that are going to be coming to this board. And I wanted to have this opportunity for this to be kind of the first touch that we talked about in our special meeting, to give you the heads up. This is your opportunity to get some background, understand our public participation plan thoughts, as well as to start to formulate in your head any questions that you might have as the process goes on. And again, the goal for this is to come to you multiple times through the process before it gets to you, to have the opportunity for you to ask questions in a public setting, and for staff to keep you in the loop for projects. So the first thing I'm going to talk about is a kind of a second phase of rezoning work in the North Side neighborhood. For those that have been on the board for a while, you recall back in early 2019, we did a large area of rezoning immediately after the neighborhood plan, and did some zoning work that focused on the Northside Cultural Business District Authority area, which is just south and over to the west from this area that is circled, the gray area. This project is looking solely at a pocket of manufacturing zoning, and the boundary is generally south of Patterson, west of Walbridge, mostly north of Frank. I guess north of North, there's that one lot that kind of juts out over to the railroad tracks, kind of over by what was Scudder Court. It's about 75 parcels. And, you know, they are a big mix of uses, of which most of them are not manufacturing. There's about 24 active residential lots. The Brownfield Redevelopment Authority owns about 20 of the lots in this area that are currently vacant, and are working actively to get those back on the tax rolls, right? To get them back cleaned up and back into into development that will serve the neighborhood. In fact, next month, you're going to see one, if you can see my cursor, going up and down on this kind of long skinny parcel here. It's 315 Frank Street. This gentleman is acquiring the property from the Brownfield Redevelopment Authority and is just moving faster than I am in the rezoning process. And so he's going to be coming individually forward to request rezoning for his property only, to do a mixed use project that includes row houses, attached housing that will be rental, as well as a neighborhood focused commercial building on Frank Street. So, you know, right now, manufacturing as a district allows manufacturing. It allows commercial. It's meant for kind of larger lot developments. It does not allow any new residential. No residential is allowed. So, you know, that does not fit with what's there for a good chunk of the lots. It doesn't really fit with a lot size and pattern. As you can see from this map, there's a lot of small residential lots that exist in those blocks. A lot of the streets in this area are kind of narrow local streets. And so things just we're not kind of in alignment either with what's on the ground or with the vision for this area. The Northside Neighborhood Plan, well, focus on the Northside Cultural Business District Authority, was a neighborhood-wide plan, and it had two strategic goals that fit with this work. The first is to increase the number of resident-owned businesses, especially those by African Americans and low-income residents. And the second is to preserve existing housing and build new housing to accommodate all residents' needs. Now, zoning is not the magic wand that is going to be able to say who owns a business necessarily, or exactly who can be in the housing. What the zoning can do is make sure that those opportunities are possible, right? By making sure that the zoning is right, that it allows the right mix of uses. Again, we talk about zoning as kind of setting the table. It's kind of that base layer for projects that may happen later. This work is kicking off right about now. We're in the process of creating a flyer that will go out to the property owners next week. We will likely hand deliver to the residential properties and do a mailer of that flyer to the commercial businesses, obviously the owners of the vacant lots, and the few manufacturing that do exist in the area. We'll be able to set up opportunities for direct conversation, whether it's by phone or Zoom for now, and that will take place in February and early March. When we did the East Side zoning work, we found that phone was kind of the primary means of communication for a lot of folks, and so we answered a lot of questions and went back and forth on the phone. So we'll make sure that that is available again for the work on the North Side. We'll plan a virtual presentation and a question and answer. And we'll do, we'll make sure that Imagine Kalamazoo website is always up to date with maps. We keep the use table up there. If somebody can't access it, we print it out and we mail it to them to make sure that it is available to everybody. So this work, again, we're just kicking it off. So I would not expect it to come to you until April or May, and we'll kind of play it by ear based on how we're able to engage and talk to the residents. But that is the kind of the first project that I wanted to talk to you about tonight. Does anybody have any questions before I go on to the next one?
Are there any existing manufacturing uses in this area?
Sure, there are uses that would qualify under manufacturing, although I don't think they're traditional manufacturing. Like there's not large production that goes on here, right? Okay. There's a commercial laundry. One of the hospitals in the area has a commercial laundry in the area. That's commonly found in manufacturing. There is a small molding company that makes epoxy molds, and you could do they have different kits, like you can make fishing lures and you can make mugs, and they obviously have a commercial business. So that seems to be the largest extent of the commercial. There are a handful of properties that are owned by Graphics Packaging, but they are currently used for parking.
Okay. So is the current vision to just wide open, or are you thinking moving sort of in the live work direction, like the surrounding area has gone?
Yeah, I think that I think everything up along Patterson, where we do have a bit more of the quasi-industrial lots, Live Work 2 is very appropriate. That Live Work 2 was designed to be used in areas that are transitioning from industrial or transitioning from an intense downtown. So they kind of bridge the gap between those districts. And the bulk of the balance is very appropriate for Live Work 1. We are open to, as we have conversations with residents, if we need to look at something different for a block, then we can have that conversation and the pros and cons. But Live Work 1 and Live Work 2 fit with what's around there. The gentleman who you'll be seeing next month for that 315, which again is this long, skinny parcel here at the corner of Frank and Pitcher, is coming to request Live Work 1 because that fits with his project. Live Work 1, again, allows everything from a single family home to a small mixed use commercial building, which kind of fits with the mix that does exist here and to the south pretty well. Does anybody else have any other questions on this project? And I will come back with an update on it too once we've gone through some engagement. Okay, then I'm going to keep going. The second project is Natural Features Protection 2. So we are in the process of getting this zoning project back up and running. Jamie McCarthy, the staff who presented to you back in the fall, has been working with the Natural Features Protection Board to really get them to think about where they were when they brought it forward to you last time. What were the deficits, what still works, and that's what they're in the process of reviewing right now. And so again, remember that this is both a map change as well as it will be a text amendment. Now, phase 2 is always just going to be a map change, right? When we passed NFP originally about 2 years ago, we always said phase 2 would be expanding the map. Based on the comments that we heard through engagement last fall and at the Plan Commission meeting, there are some text edits that need to be made to make sure that the standards are clear and equitable for all users and for the different types of lots that it covers. And so this will have some text amendments associated with it to make sure that that works. The NFP board is also working with staff to think about how we'll be increasing the notice period a bit. And it would be, what we're thinking is that when we bring it to you, you meet the first week of the month. NFP generally meets the last week of a month. So we'll have an opportunity to notice the hearing in front of the Plan Commission, as well as an opportunity to have a discussion in front of the NFP board on this topic as part of additional outreach. And we will do office hours over phone and Zoom for people to talk and ask questions about their specific property. So generally, here's what the timeline would look like. This month, the NFP board is meeting to talk about those text amendments, review the map. Remember, we had some help creating the map from a student at Western Michigan University who specializes in GIS. And so, he will be able to be a part of those to kind of remind what the criteria were, what was selected and what wasn't selected. In March, the NFP board is going to invite this board to attend their meeting to hear about, and so it would serve as a special meeting for you. But it would be an opportunity to have everybody, both boards, the board that's going to ultimately recommend it to the city commission, and then the board who really was instrumental in creating it, to have a conversation on it. So more information about that soon. That 23rd date is still tentative, but it's the NFP board's existing meeting, so we don't have to worry about selecting new dates with our IT and communications department. It happens late in the afternoon. And being a redevelopment ready community that we are, something that the state of Michigan, MEDC, Michigan Economic Development Corporation, awarded us that status of redevelopment ready communities. One of the things we need to do at least once a year is have a joint meeting between our boards. And this seemed like the perfect opportunity to do that and make sure that we are having open communication on natural features protection. In April, we're going to put it out in view from the curb again. We'll get our notice letters out in advance to notice both one more NFP meeting opportunity for the public to discuss before it comes before you in either May or June. Anybody have any questions on NFP phase 2? Okay, moving right along. Okay, we are going to update our sign code. This is something that we are we're due to do. Katie Riley in her presentation mentioned a really neat project of projecting signs that might happen in our neighborhoods, tied with some artists to create the signs for businesses. Technically, they can't do that without a variance because projecting signs are only allowed in downtown. And that is just an example of things that we need to update in our sign code. There was a few years ago, there was a Supreme Court case, Reed versus the town of Gilbert, which made some pretty sweeping changes about how temporary signs are viewed and regulated. So we need to make sure our code is updated to be in compliance with Reed. And again, you know, it's a general reorganization, simplification, standard review, and more illustrations. This is less about wholesale changes in terms of quantity of signage per district because we don't receive that many variances on that. It seems to be working fairly well. This is more about some small tweaks to make sure we're in compliance and that we're able to support businesses outside of downtown in the same way that we support them in downtown. So staff is in the process of reviewing and working to update the text and to get that out to start conversations for public review. We will have conversations through our neighborhood associations and very importantly through our neighborhood business associations. Multiple neighborhoods have business organizations in addition to their neighborhood association. And that will be, help us reach a lot of the businesses in town. Of course, you know, we have the downtown Andrew Hahn's organization. We also have a lot of large commercial centers, and we'll be able to reach out through the owners of those to make sure that we are reaching large and small businesses. Of course, we'll use Imagine Kalamazoo webpage, projects page for draft review. You can always submit comments online. And we would expect this to come, depending on how engagement goes, and in April or May as well. If you're sensing a trend, you're going to have a busy spring.
I would just caution.
We will not
with the new
overlook.
membership.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Saki, did you have a question?
Yeah, where would one find the current sign code?
Sure. It's in Appendix A.
Okay.
So we are, and I meant to talk about this at the beginning, you know, we have been slowly updating our zoning code since Imagine Kalamazoo. Our zoning code is partially still in Appendix A of the municipal code, where every time we take a section out of it and kind of run it through the wash and look at it, we put it in its new home, which is Chapter 50 of the municipal code. And when you go online, Appendix A and Chapter 50, you know, actually are right next to each other. So they're in the same larger document, but the sign code still exists in our older code. I believe it's Section 7.
Okay, it would be interesting to read through that and just see where we're at right now so that the changes are easier to track.
Yeah, what I can do is I can send you a link to where it exists now, if you want to take a look at it.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah.
That would be helpful.
We also have some really great kind of how you take the Supreme Court ruling from the Reed case and like some nice one-pagers. Okay, well, what are you supposed to think about? The Michigan Municipal League has lifted up some codes in Michigan that have already revised themselves since that court case as to be good examples. So we're going to be relying on all of those to make sure that we are in compliance, but I can get you that information sooner rather than later. Okay, so here's a big one, but it's not coming this spring. I just wanted to talk to you about it now so you guys can start thinking. So a lot of the work that we've done thus far, including some of the stuff we just talked about tonight, has to do a lot with nodes, corridors, signage. So the other big zoning project this year will be to finish the update for the commercial zoning. Our ZBA is constantly having to review variances for ground floor residential, or where it's allowed, where it's not allowed in our commercial areas. You experienced looking at maps as recent as when we did the east side zoning last month or a month and a half ago, and going back to north side updates where we have applied many different districts along a short corridor, and each of the district has a little narrow set of uses, and we kind of go back and forth, and none of them are exactly right? So we have community commercial, which is our intense commercial district. It's meant for larger lots, goes up to 6 stories. And that is a district that you would find on a large corridor like Stadium Drive or very, very southwest edge of Portage streets. But we find it throughout our neighborhoods, and the lot sizes don't match and the height allowance don't match with what's there. We have 2 office districts that are kind of their office plus just a little bit more. We have commercial office and commercial neighborhood office. Again, they have kind of a narrow list of uses. They allow anywhere between 4 and 6 stories in height. We have 2 neighborhood commercial districts, commercial neighborhood 1 and commercial neighborhood 2. Commercial neighborhood 2 isn't even mapped anywhere in the city right now. Neither of them has the exact right mix of uses, I think, for where a lot of the neighborhoods are going with their plans. They limit residential on the ground floor. They only allow 2 or 3 stories in height. So, one might be too tall, but these might be too small. And they have no form or context standards associated with them, even though they're used, in key neighborhood locations. And then finally, we have commercial mixed use, or CMU, and it's kind of partner or twin residential mixed use, or RMU. And these are kind of similar districts. One just highlights commercial a little bit more, and the other one highlights residential a little bit more. And these districts are created with good intentions, but again, it doesn't quite work. And we have found ourselves having to grant variances from it in recent years to allow projects that fit with the master plan as well as neighborhood plans. So that is what we have today. That's what we're working with. This project will work to review those 7 districts to either edit or eliminate, combine those districts into a smaller set that are usable and that fit with the scale of the development around them, that fit with the streets around them. Something that Imagine Kalamazoo and the 25 Master Plan really think about is, when you're talking about the scale of a development, you also can't just look at the lot itself. You have to think about the street that it's on as well. There's also going to be a consideration in some areas for suburban sprawl repair, and does that have a place in Kalamazoo or not? And so this will be both text and map updates. So outreach for this is going to be very interesting. This is going to be like NFP in the sense that these zones currently exist all over the city. And so we're really going to have to work very carefully with business organizations, our commercial center owners. It will be a mix of hand deliveries of flyers and door hangers, as well as mailing information. We'll probably do a road show like we've done, like we did for NFP phase 1, like we did for the master plan, where we're going out to multiple locations to have meetings to make sure that we are hitting as many areas as possible. And of course, everything always on imaginekalamazoo.com, draft text, maps for review. This will not come to you until sometime in the summer. There's a lot of work to do for this because it's a scattered site project. Unlike the east side, where it was all on a couple of streets, or downtown, downtown was big, but all the streets connected. This is scattered throughout the city. So we're going to have to come up with a really careful plan to make sure that we are reaching everybody that we need to reach. And so I wanted to kind of, even though we're not quite there yet to kick this off, I wanted to let you know that it was coming, because that would be kind of the big, probably the biggest activity, at least so far, that I'm thinking about this year. So Does anybody have any questions about any of those projects? It is a lot of zoning work. I mean, that's what anything that we bring forward is going to be zoning or neighborhood plans. There won't be any neighborhood plans until later in the year. Though we have a series of neighborhoods that are kind of in progress, but I don't expect any of them to be brought forth until fall. So it will be either, your next 6 months or so will be these couple of projects, as well as whatever, residents bring forward to us, like the really cool 315 Frank Street project that you will see next month. And that's all I got.
I don't have specific questions. I think this is really exciting. I think our work's cut out for us. And I would say, with all of these, as there are, we're kind of at the end game. So as there are sticky situations or particular elements that you can bring to us at these, either in these reports or even as an agenda item under other business, and actually review sections of the proposed code, knowing it may change. But just, and again, I'm thinking to the, relative inexperience of the commission, that it will be almost partially as education, but also as, to begin to implant in everybody's minds, okay, this is what's going to be coming, so that everyone can have a chance to begin to really think about it ahead of that, what'll be ultimate presentation and decision night. So,
yeah.
Good. All right, well, excellent. Well, thank you for that presentation. That's good. With that then, we're ready for miscellaneous comments by planning commissioners. Anyone have any final comments? Yes. Sade.
I just wanted to thank the city staff and also our planning commissioners that'll be leaving us that did the interviews. After going through a lot of the resumes, you guys did a really excellent job. I know that it was a hard decision because you probably had so many good people coming, and to fill 4 seats is huge, and that we can get this all done as we get ready for our spring term. It's going to be really sad seeing some of you go, because we have grown, got a bond, and you guys have kind of groomed some of us new ones to get in prepared. So it will be bittersweet to see you guys go in the spring, but I definitely appreciate the people that you guys have coming, because you have did a really good job.
Thank you.
All right.
Any other comments?
Yeah.
James?
Hello? Yeah. Okay. All right. Yeah, I would just like to say to the outgoing commissioners that it was an honor serving with everyone, and I hope everyone the best in their endeavors. And just that, I feel like me coming on, and since I've been on, we've actually had some pretty great people as planning commissioners, and I can really appreciate it. So good luck to everybody that's leaving us.
Thank you.
And for those that are leaving, don't forget, you're still here next month. Even though everyone's saying bye, you still have a little more work to do.
Right. We are not pushing you out. I'm just saying my early goodbyes, I guess.
Anyone else?
We did have a late comment that just came in, if you would like to hear it.
What's the pleasure of the commission or staff?
I would defer to the city attorney.
Well, that's why you have rules in terms of having a set time for public comments. On the other hand, as the chair said, what's the pleasure of the commission if you wish to, because you do have control over your rules. And if you want to waive the rule and you want to listen to this public comment, you can. The only problem with that, of course, is that if you open the opportunity for one person, you may get a series of people who decide to call.
Any
believe it.
thoughts? Oops, you're muted.
I'm
Okay,
sorry.
okay, there you
All
go.
right, well, yeah, I think that we probably should listen to the comment just to kind of, hear the voice of the people also.
Seeing some nods.
That's fine. Let's take a listen and
All right.
we can
I have
decide.
no
if we want
objection.
that rule going forward.
I mean,
Okay.
we should also consider the fact that we're dealing with non-normal technology, and it would be different in a public setting in person. I don't know.
Good caveat. Please play the message. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Tina McClinton. I live on Lake Street. I was calling because my question to you, you're fixing signs, you're fixing this, you're fixing that. What about the flooding we deal with? What about your storm drains and sanitary sewers that fill up with water and then back up the sanitary sewers? When your storm drains get full, it backs into the sanitary sewers and then backs up in our homes and in our streets. Why is this not a top priority to fix? You can fix the problem if you fix your crumbling infrastructure in Southtown neighborhood and you fix your sanitary sewers and your storm drains. People in Kalamazoo, Michigan should not have to live like this in the city of Kalamazoo. They should not have to worry about if it rains for a day, the storm drains are going to get full and then back up into the sanitary sewers and then back up in our homes. Why won't you fix your crumbling infrastructure? That's all I ask. Thank you.
Okay. Any other comments from planning commissioners? The only thing I'll add is just the April meeting. I think we just sort of punted on the calendar before and just said everything, but that is during spring break. And I don't know what anyone else is doing, but I'm tired of being stuck on this hamster wheel and will probably find myself somewhere. Maybe it's in my basement, but I'm going to find myself somewhere. So I would maybe request to staff that we seek another date for that April meeting, considering its now significance.
Yeah, I mean, just a heads up for those members who will be with us in April. We'll have business that we need to manage and may need to find a new date if April 1st is going to be problematic. But we also have our annual meeting, right? So the start of that training that we've kind of talked about. So Pete is going to be working up dates that work internally for a special meeting for training, first of all. And then we'll be able to give you options soon for that. And we'll be in touch also with April 1st as it relates to, do we keep that date or do we move it? We're also going to have some decisions to make because I believe the virtual for no reason meeting act from the legislature expires March 31st. So we might, I'm not sure if that's going to be extended or how that works. So we have a couple things up in the air. And so that first meeting in April, we might need to kind of say, we're going to play it by ear, or we need to wait a little bit longer before we figure this out. We had the same thing occur for those of you that remember back in June, July, because at that point it was going to expire at the end of June, and our meeting, we would have had to notice our meeting well before a decision was made. So kind of hang with us. Yeah. We'll try not to skip any meetings and we'll try not to overload you, but we know that there's business coming in and we're just trying to keep our best to keep that flow as steady as possible.
Appreciate that. Thank you. All right. Any other last closing comments? Seeing none, everybody stay safe, stay warm, and have a great rest of your February. With that, and nothing else on the agenda, we're adjourned. Bye, everybody.
Thanks, Greg.
All right.